Good morning. My name is Professor Claudia Rinaldi, and I am the Director of the Pathways to Teacher Diversity and Pathways to Diversity program at LaSalle University. And today we'll have a mentoring session with three of our college students who will be here to share a little bit about how they made their choice in selecting their majors and what that major has been over the different years in the college as they get closer to graduation. Today, as you can see, we have three students. We have Kathleen Enriquez, who is a senior in psychology major, Yadira Medina, who is a secondary history major for education, and Laidali Suarez, who is a secondary in English major as well. So good morning, ladies. I wanted to thank you for coming today, and I wanted to know if we could start by just talking about when you were back in high school, how did you select a major when applying to college? And then we'll go from there asking just more different specific questions. So tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you were thinking in high school that helped you to select a major. So Jadira, you want to begin?
Sure. Um, so back when I was in high school, I think so my concentration is in history, and I always knew I wanted to do something in history since freshman year when I took a world history class, and I was like, this is just so fascinating because like the interconnectedness and like global studies and things like that. So I know I wanted to do something with like history, not sure quite just yet what. And then I think like junior year, I had this like really amazing teacher, and he just inspired me to want to be a teacher. So I was like, I'll go to college and be a teacher for history, and that's kind of where I am now. Not really that exciting, but yeah.
Good. So your passion began like sophomore year taking that world history class and finding it fascinating.
Mm.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen to everybody. I took that class when I was in high school, and that did not happen to me. So finding your passion is really, really key. What about you, Catherine?
So in high school, I was really good with science, and except when I got to chemistry. So throughout all my high school career, I thought I was going to go into STEM, but um, I was kind of honest with myself when I was applying to schools, and I was like, I don't know how to do any math, and I don't know if I like the sciences or if I'm just
Mm,
good at it, but it's not really a passion. So um, and I was always kind of interested in mental health, and in the community that I'm from, it's a predominantly Hispanic community where mental health is seen as weakness. So I wanted to kind of be a when I first started, I wanted to be a counselor or a therapist, especially for high school students in predominantly low income neighborhoods, whether that be in schools or just in the neighborhoods. So that's why I was like, I was just gonna go with psychology, but um, yeah, that's how it started.
good, great. And Laidalise is a first year college student. So Laidalise, why don't you tell us your trajectory and how you selected your major?
So, I've been someone that's like very artistic. Since I was young, I've always been into music. And so throughout like high school, middle school, since elementary, I've been like doing anything with music. So I've played like several instruments. And so when I got to high school, even outside of school, I was like doing activities that had to do with music, like marching band and stuff like that. And like that is one of my passions, but being able to like help others and teach others to also like understand how to read notes and stuff like that, like that was always something that was, I guess, like a separate passion for me. And like in the future, I hope to be able to also maybe be like a private instructor or something. But I also remembered like when I was younger, I was in ESL because I wasn't born here, so my first language wasn't English. And I always loved that class, not only because I was like learning English, but also because I was being able to connect with people that were like in a similar situation as me. So that's something that I want to do. And so like I just knew like that I wanted to do teaching, and I wanted to start off with English, but like I also want to move into like ESL and all that. So yeah.
Very interesting. Interesting trajectory. Like the Lisa, I was also born outside of the United States. So I came when I was 10 and I was learning English too. I didn't know any word of English. So that was really, really tough. And I think that's why I'm also passionate about that. But you heard the three students here today have shared that they found something that they were really interested in. So that is really part of the key in kind of thinking about what is it that you're interested in, and you can have multiple interests. And in fact, for Lila Lee, something that I haven't shared with her is that they are people who do music therapy for children. And that brings the idea that there are careers out there that you've probably never heard of it that build or bridge those connections. And you'll hear now from our students where they want to go as they get closer to graduation. And so we'll hear from Catherine and Jadira because they're junior and senior, where they think now after taking 3 and 4 years of courses in this major, where they feel that they're going to go as soon as they graduate. So why don't we start with the two of them, and then we'll talk to Lila Lisa about what it's been in the first year, and if is it what she expected as she kind of thought about those passions and selecting a major. So Catherine, why don't you start telling us, now that you're a senior, what has the psychology major been like, and where are you headed after you graduate this May?
Yeah, so in psychology, there is a lot that you can do within the field of psychology. It's not just being a therapist or a counselor, which is a very big misconception, I guess, or just not a well-known fact. So when I started, like I said, I wanted to be a counselor, but as I took courses, and at LaSalle, there's a course that it's called counseling, and it basically it teaches you like the different forms of counseling. You get to do kind of like a lot of role playing and how would it look like if you were a counselor. And well, that class showed me that that's not what I wanted to do. And so it it changed my focus into wanting to help the broader community in general rather than individuals. So I've been doing my internships. My first internship, I did it at MGH with a program in the MGH Youth Scholars, and it was kind of just helping a cohort of ninth graders navigate around the hospital and learn about different programs or different careers within STEM. And then my second internship now is in the neighborhood health center of East Boston, and I'm in the neighborhood trauma team, which focuses a lot on um, helping and bringing resources to families who suffer traumatic events due to violence in the community or immigration related trauma or domestic violence trauma. So we focus a lot on how to help the community, and I think that is where my passion lies. Instead of helping individuals um, with individual therapy, I rather like work for the community in general. And so now I am applying to grad schools for programs of public health, and maybe some programs that are public health and public policy. So I'm not sure where that will take me, but that's where I am at the moment.
Fantastic, Catherine. Very exciting. And you bring up a great point that there are so many careers in the field of psychology and health that really work hand in hand. And the idea that you also don't always have to go into private therapy, but you could go into more supporting of communities. So we are very excited to see where you're going to be headed next year. And hopefully you'll come back in a year from now and tell us how and what you're doing. What about you, Yadira? What is going on to 3 years of being a secondary history major, and every experience that you've had on campus to kind of get you to think about what's next?
Um, I definitely, and this is like a concept that's been brought up in classes about the different types of schoolings. Like there's the urban, there's the suburban, there's the inner city, all those types of schools. And I would love to come back to my where I live right now. I live in Lawrence, Massachusetts, where it's a mostly Hispanic population. There's a lot of kids that are in ESL, like Leda Liz said, like that's the type of environment I grew up in. Um, I actually was also in ESL, but not because I couldn't speak English, but because I just didn't speak at all, so they assumed I didn't speak English. But that's just because I was nervous and didn't want to like mess up, which is something that like kids go through when they move to a different country. I mean, I was born in Puerto Rico, so it wasn't a completely different country, but I mostly spoke Spanish. Like I knew English, I could perfectly speak English. I was just scared to make a wrong choice because I was in a new environment. Um, and I want to work with kids where they're marginalized. Thankfully, I grew up in a mostly Hispanic community, so I wasn't marginalized. But for those kids that are just like the 5 kids of color in a predominantly white school, I want to be there for them and be their supports and make sure that they know that there are other people like them, that I can be the teacher that they go to because I can understand what they're going through, even if not completely totally because I grew up in a different environment. But I would love to come back and help my community.
That's wonderful, Jadir. That's great. And I'm glad you brought this issue of, you didn't speak. And sometimes people forget that for students who are learning English, it takes 5 to 7 years. And even when you know English, you still go through different periods. One is called the silent period. And that's really what you experienced when you came here. And it wasn't that you were mute or you had a disability. It was more like you were making the transition from one language to the other one and you wanted to be able to communicate appropriately. And some kids go through a silent period. Everyone goes through a silent period as you're learning a new language, but some of them go through it a little bit longer than others. So that's an interesting kind of aspect that you brought today. And that's where teachers can be really key. So it's wonderful that you want to go back to your community. And I know that we've been keeping in touch with Lawrence and the superintendent and the principals there, and they're excited to kind of be interviewing you in a year. They're already planning on that. So that's great that the choice of career that you had is an area that you're going. Whereas Catherine's staying in psychology, but now looking at it from a different lens and maybe going into public health or other kind of more widely spread topics. And and you'll find that even through your career, something that happened to me is I was like Jadira, I was excited becoming a teacher. And then in the first year teaching, I realized I love the kids, I love teaching, but I'm only going to do this for a few years and then I'm going to do something else. And that's kind of how I got into higher education and teaching college students. And now that I'm here, I realized this was always my calling, was working with college students. So I'm still a teacher, it's just a different route to getting that, kind of like how Catherine is getting through the route of psychology through helping community rather than doing individual therapy. So those are really great examples of how students move through your trajectory in college and prepare for career. What about you, Laidalise? I mean, you have a little bit of a less experience because you just started, but yeah, now you're in your second semester. So you can start thinking about, how is it going this year in terms of selecting your major? A lot of students change their major and that's okay. That's part of the exploration that we do. But tell us how you're doing in thinking about becoming a secondary teacher and the other passions that you have.
I'm doing great, to be honest. I've always liked to do. I've always had in mind, I guess, to do different activities while I was still in high school to like kind of basically be ahead. So when I was in college, I could be able to kind of just like pick what I wanted and not like get set behind or anything. Um, Even though like while I was in high school, I took classes in like the healthcare field. I actually did like a dual enrollment in Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology. So like I did automotive and I did I did different things so I can kind of like find out what I wanted to do. Even though like in the back of my mind I knew I wanted to do like some sort of teaching. I specifically wanted to do it in music, like I was saying earlier. But like I found like I can do that in the future. Like I can just like keep practicing or whatever and become an instructor separately. But I kind of wanted to be more of like Jadira was saying, like have more importance in some way. So kind of like be that teacher that I wanted when I was in school, and that teacher like that a lot of students need. So being able, like starting at LaSalle, I've been able to kind of see myself in that more. So like at first I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know. But like the advisor has been able to help me, and just kind of like I was saying, like going through the classes and everything, I can see myself more as a like that teacher that I guess like I had in mind. Um a lot of like the issue was too for me was because when I was doing dual enrollment, like they didn't get straight to like I guess like kind of the point of the classes. They were just kind of like barking around the tree, and they weren't really like giving me the experience that I guess I wanted. And so at LaSalle, like once you kind of declare the major you want, you hop right to it. You go to the classes that are gonna help you like graduate with that degree you want and stuff like that. So that's definitely been very helpful. And I started off with like curriculum and instruction. So that kind of let me like I guess like sway around a little bit. I did take some psychology, and that also I was just like, wow, I loved my psychology class last semester. So I'm also kind of I kind of wanted to do like a minor in psychology, but I'm still thinking about it. But being at LaSalle definitely has helped clear my mind and like things I've wanted to do and all of that. So yeah.
Excellent, Laidalise. And like you, I loved psychology. My majors in college were elementary education and psychology. And I actually thought I wanted to go into mental health counseling, Catherine. So that's really interesting. Until I took my first master's class and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is not for me. And I like the classroom a lot more. So that is interesting, Laidalise, that you're finding other passions within the areas that are related to education. And the great option of that is that you could always get a minor in child studies or a minor in just in general psychology. So there's a lot of ways to get concentrations when you're at college in the different majors that allow you to kind of take electives that you really love and that you want to learn about. So that's really wonderful. I think I want to thank the mentor leaders today for their um, ability to share what their trajectory has been. I wanted to know if they had a lasting comment to share today, or just one piece of advice that maybe we could give to our high school mentees that could help them to think about, a major or coming to college.
I guess a piece of advice would be it's okay if you don't know what you want to do when you first come to college. You should just like explore your interests. That's what college is there for because you can always change your mind about your major. It's not like a 4-year process. Most people don't finish in 4 years. They could pick it up, leave after a year, come back 10 years later and finish their degree. It's not a race to the end. Everybody's journey is different. Just explore what you're interested in, and if you want that degree, you'll get the degree. You just got to put the work in.
Beautiful, Jadir. Any other advice?
I
Okay,
think
go
Jadira
ahead,
said
Catherine.
Jadira said exactly what I was gonna say. That it is completely okay to not know what to do. And if you have an idea of what you are passionate about, explore it. You might find out that you actually don't like it.
That's right. And that is okay. It's not like Legit said, um, it's not about finishing the 4 years, something you don't like, but it's not a race to the end, but a race to your passion kind of thing. I'm adding that passion word, but I think that's what you meant. And I like that quote. I'm going to start using that quote, Jadira, in our work. Laidalise, did you have any advice, since you're a little bit closer to the high school students, on anything related to majors or just transitioning to college?
I would say like don't be afraid. Like a lot, like that Jadid and Catherine said, like you have time. But also like don't be afraid to come into college and just like not know anything, because there's a lot, like even in my classes, that we didn't go through in high school. Like a lot of things I've learned because it wasn't taught in my high school. So at a time I felt like, oh my God, like I felt like my school didn't do its job, you know, in preparing me for school. But like it's very different in high school in a way. So it's like you kind of have to pick up your own flow. So like don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just like go with it and just pick up your own flow, because it's like in high school you're taught like kind of to depend on the teachers and stuff like that, and in school it's a little more individual. So it's just about like your pace, your flow. So just don't be afraid to like be making mistakes, but also just kind of like try to figure it out for you, because like it's you that's gonna do like you're the one going to classes, you're the one that's gonna get your degree, no one else is. So kind of like also going at your own pace, like the girls were saying. So yeah.
Wonderful. Such great quotes that you all gave me today. Catherine, I didn't get yours really quite fast enough, but I want to thank all three of you for taking the time today to join us and for giving such great advice. We may not have a mentor on right now, but I know that they will be hearing and learning from you. And what you're sharing is really allowing somebody else that went through what we went as we were applying to college and felt alone or felt that we didn't know enough information to feel yet a little bit more comfortable. So thank you. And I hope that you all have a great day, and let us know if you want to talk more to any of us. We'll be happy to connect you with the mentor or with myself.